Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ankerstar Wealth Morning Show. It is a Tuesday. We took yesterday off because we were waiting in much anticipation of the, I forget what they called it, the glow up or the glow something for the Apple big release of their new products. We have a new iPhone, not named iPhone AI, even though they did adopt Apple intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. That's kind of cute, I guess. There's new AirPods out there. Kind of cool. They added like a hearing test feature to where it can actually kind of perform a function like as a hearing aid, which is kind of interesting, right? Depending on your parents or grandparents out there, those things can be a little expensive when you start buying hearing aids if you don't qualify for some program where you get them. So anyhow, there's that, and there's a new watch out there. The top watch is like $799. It's like, okay, they're pretty proud of that, but we shall see. As far as the iPhone 16, Mike will kind of talk about everything else that was on out there. But I do have a pre-order ready to go, and pre-orders start Friday morning. So Mike will talk about that first. Then we are going to switch gears to a company you've heard of called Palantir. We were in this for a while, and then we were back out of it. Now we're back into it a little bit. They were added to the S&P 500 along with Dell on Friday. Both stocks jumped, anywhere from 5 to 10% on those sort of news, and kicked out American Airlines. What? Why was that still in the S&P 500? Anyhow, my opinion on airline investing. So those are our two market topics today. The last one's a business topic. If you have an LLC out there, which it takes, it's super easy to open an LLC, but then it's kind of hard sometimes to stay up on all of the reporting requirements and taxes and stuff. I've been burned. I've got scars, burn marks on my hands from some of this stuff. So I'm speaking from experience. We're going to talk about the beneficial operating information reporting that's required of all LLCs. And again, that's the financial crimes network that for the government that's causing that requirement. But the penalty is $591 a day that you're late. So you need to pay attention. If you have an LLC, stay tuned until the very end. So this is a financial education presentation. You have to do your own due diligence for acting upon anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information is available at AnkerstarWealth.com, and the opinions expressed are Mike and mine alone. Over to you, Mike. Let's talk about Apple.
Well, with the Apple intelligence, could we have an Ankerstar intelligence soon?
I like the way you think. So let's make it. Let it be written, right?
Anything with AI goes up in value. Is that that's
yeah, we need to rename our portfolios into the Ankerstar Intelligence portfolios. There you go. Completely AI.
Complete marketing. There we go. So yes, exciting news yesterday. Apple comes out with, they did not, like Steve said, they did not change it. They kept the numbers, iPhone 16, Apple Watch, AirPods 4. I mean, exciting stuff. I know once before I said, they really should just come out with one that's like Apple or iPhone basic and just has like 3 basic apps that the people actually need, and then everything else is an add-on, because that's what it is. When you take your parents to get one, they're like, just how do I text and call, and I'll take the rest, but I probably never use it. But they came out with this, and I wanted to share a couple things on it. Bigger screen, bigger camera, ability to focus in from hundreds of yards away to get pictures. It's like, I remember back when it used to be like, oh, it's a 2 megapixel picture and you could send it over the internet. Now it's like 48 megapixels on a selfie. It's like, wow, you can see every little detail of your face. And meanwhile, you clog up all the bandwidth of the internet. Faster processors, everything. I see this, the 48 megapixel fusion camera. So, selling. Video capture 4K at 120 frames per second. If I remember from my video game days, when you're anything, higher than like 60 frames per second, it's like watching a movie. But anything less than 60, it gets a little choppy in a second. So I mean, they're producing a camera that does that. Just, obviously fantastic hardware. And if any of you have followed Apple since those first phones, it's just amazing how far it has come. They, take ideas, obviously develop some of their own, but they also look at what competitors are doing, and they refine them and perfect them and put them out and keep them kind of within their own, area, so that other, I'll say their software is a little bit more locked down than, say, Google or the wild, wild west out there in Android. Other things, and Steve mentioned one of them, but as far as ability to search for images in your library by describing them. Now, the other day I had to find a picture from a few months ago, and then you realize how many pictures you take and don't delete. There's all kinds of crazy pictures. I used to try to keep that down and like clean things out, like when I was sitting in an airport. I haven't done it in a while. So I'll be real interested to test this feature out. Like, look for a picture of me at a Bengals game when they won the game, unlike last week. Something like that.
Narrows it down.
That narrows it down, yeah. all my pictures from the 2000s are gone. Another one, summarizing emails. Hey, I kind of like that. And I actually saw somebody using some of, they weren't using Apple, but they were using like ChatGPT to capture, a speaker at an event. And then they put it into ChatGPT and said, summarize this for me. I said, that's pretty smart. I like that. So, these are some of the things that Apple wants to take advantage of AI. It's all about empowering you as a human to do more, to be more efficient, save you time. I don't have to scroll through hundreds and thousands of pictures to get something. That's the goal. I did see that what Steve said. Let me see if I could probably find it down here. But I just wanted to reiterate what he said about the hearing aid. I thought that was a great idea. In fact, as I was thinking about it yesterday, I was trying to really figure out how hearing aids work. The microphone has to pick it up and then play it louder for the person to hear in real time. So, that's something they can do. And the continued Apple Watch upgrades for health, detect sleep apnea. Eventually, your Apple Watch will probably just signal like, hey, you're dying, and then, call 911 for you. Remember the old, I've fallen and I can't get up, and I've got the little thing. So, that's where Apple's going. Some very good features that apply to everyone, anywhere from, the kids to older adults. So really excited. So what I want to look at here is, so what did Apple stock do? That's what we do, is we invest. So here's what I'm showing you is a 5-day graph, really just because I wanted to pick up yesterday. Here's what we saw yesterday is it went up to about $220 a share, and then as things came out, as they announced things, it sold off a little bit. And we typically see this where people sell into the news. They're like riding it up high, and it sold off a little bit, and then it rebounded right back up. You can see that as far as today, it's down a little bit, 1%, no big deal. So I will say there's not a major move in the stock. We didn't see it surge up or surge down yesterday. So what we want to do is take a step back and let's just look at like a 6-month graph. And so here's a 6-month graph of Apple. It was at $170 a share. It's up to 220, so 50 over 170. We're talking almost a 30% gain of a multi-trillion-dollar company. So, and then of course, Steve will always be happy to look at the all-time graph,
yes,
which we wish every stock in the portfolio looked like this, and we got in back in 2009 or something. So that's Apple. So anything else you want to add on Apple, Steve? You're ready to buy yours?
Talk for the next 20 minutes. So yeah, absolutely. The camera button, I think, is one, I'm old, so I own that. What makes me mad is I can't just pick up my phone and immediately go to a camera, right? Because that's what I'm picking up for half the time when I'm getting yelled at by my family to take a picture, right? So you can now pick it up. It's got a camera button, and on that camera button, so immediately you have camera, and you can zoom in and out with the actual button, right? And soft pause to remember when the old cameras that you push down a little way and it refocuses, right? And you can kind of adjust things. So anyhow, I'm pretty happy with that. Plus, one of my biggest gripes with the iPhone is it sucks at sports. It doesn't have a sport mode. Like, I'm taking a picture of a sport, so I need like whatever the f-stop or whatever needs to be like fast. Otherwise, it's going to blur. And Apple's good enough to where the human isn't blurred, but the ball is always blurred, right? It's like, no, I need the super fast, so I can get it done. So they promised that in this new one. One of the reasons Corey and I were sitting in the office watching the stock real time is it started off pretty good, but then when they started talking about visual intelligence, where you take your camera and you point it at a dog and it says this is the type of dog this is. You point it at a restaurant and it gives you the menu. That sort of stuff is clearly the future, right? Clearly, and without having to go to translate, Google Translate or whatever, Apple Translate, or I don't know, I used Google when I was in Tokyo. I want to be able to point at a sign. I don't want to have to go figure out what language it's in and it's like I point at the sign and it tells me what the sign says in English, right? I don't care I don't care about any of that other stuff. So that's coming. There's also some voice to text features out there, where it says, "Hey Siri, text Mike," to be a lot funnier in the morning show. That sort of thing, where you can just voice to text. And so I think that's without having to go in and actually, into messages and hit the voice thing and then, leave a recording sort of thing. So I thought all that was good. But with the visual intelligence, they specifically, they announced it and then they said it's coming soon, later this year, which means, okay, they whiffed. They couldn't get it ready for prime time. So that'll come out through an iOS update. And then the last thing I'll leave you with a little funny story is, our iPhone set up, everybody's at the different levels, right? So I'm getting a new one because I skipped the 15 and I'm all excited about some of these new features, including that email summary, which is brilliant. But I asked my youngest daughter, I'm like, hey, you want to go half, which is, whatever, that's our family plan, judge all you want. But I'm like, yeah, if half, you pay half, I pay the other half if you want your phone upgrade. And she's like, Dad, why do I want the new AI phone in my room tracking what I'm doing at all times and reporting it to the government? It's like, okay, who talked to my child last, right? It's like, it's like there's got to be a teacher at Round Rock High School that is like part of the Illuminati or whatever that thinks that the conspiracy theorists out there. So I will shut up about the new iPhone.
You might have said,
morning,
Steve,
go ahead.
I was gonna say you might have said which government. Apple's probably reporting the United States. TikTok's going to China, so pick your social media. No.
My comment, and maybe I should have thought it through a little more, but I was in snarky mode. My comment was like, "Oh, honey, that's going on right now. That's not you don't have to enable that feature." But yeah, we laughed, but she was serious. Anyway, so I will shut up. So yeah, that I could talk Apple forever, but I won't. But you do get your order in Friday morning, whatever time, and then of course you'll be on a wait list if you don't get all over that. So pay attention.
Yes. So let me go on to Palantir. So this was very exciting news because we have this as one of our ego stocks. And when Steve said we were in this before, we were in it, it did okay. I know we saw some concerns about CEO salaries, things like that. We were out, but we added this back to our ego stocks as it started to take off. And then when you reach the S&P 500, that is an immediate buy. Like, all these people that have the S&P 500 ETFs have to buy your stock. So it surged up 14% on Friday. Like Steve said, Palantir and Dell joined. I was kind of surprised maybe Dell was in there before and then they were out. I don't know. It seems to me like Dell would have been an S&P 500 stock at least at some point. But then American Airlines and Etsy have been knocked out. And so I guess if you own the S&P 500 and you say, I'd rather have Palantir and Dell than American Airlines. I don't know much about Etsy, but but we've always talked about airlines not doing well. So, it's at least a little better. And this is our second ego stock. CrowdStrike was another one that actually hit the S&P 500. And we don't know. I mean, we can guess maybe the stock will get added, but it's such a bonus if we own this in the portfolio and it gets picked. CrowdStrike surged up and of course had issues later on. Palantir surges up. I wish we could make a job of just picking these, but it's not that easy. There's hundreds of stock, or there's probably, I'd say 40 or 50 stocks that are on the edge that could go in, and like 2 get picked. So wouldn't put a career based on picking those. And then, so we'll take a look at the stock itself. So here I'll show you a 3-month graph. You can see that, it went down a little bit in that big August tech drop. You can see since then it's done absolutely fantastic. Here, let me pull it back to a year to date. So you can see, Palantir, and what do they do? So big data analytics, counterterrorism investigations. I mean, that's kind of cool. Picking companies, if I was part of counterterrorism data analysis, it sounds cool, but I bet you, it's a lot of data processing. And I actually pulled up Palantir on Wikipedia, not normally the source for stocks, but I was looking at the history of Palantir. And in 2009, long before the IPO'd, they were part of uncovering GhostNet and Shadow Network, which was China cyber espionage. And I was like, I got to highlight that. That's pretty cool stuff. So anyways, that they found it back then. It's probably, I don't know if it's easier to find nowadays or harder to find, but anyways, certainly the business of cyber espionage is out there. And that's part of what this company works with, among lots of other things. That's not their only thing. Back over to you, Steve.
Yeah, and the concerns we had there are, CEO pay. The pay package was a little excessive, and we talk about the horse and the jockey. The horse is obviously amazing, no doubt, without a doubt. It's a must-own stock from the horse perspective. Hopefully, we won't see any more what I would call pay shenanigans like that again. So hopefully now Alex Karp is rich enough. If you're watching this, Alex, I'm sorry, and you just said that's too much. You can take too much as a CEO. That's my take on. All right, let's switch over now. I'm going to talk to some financial reporting for those of us that have an LLC or other business. Should be coming up right here. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So again, FinCEN, if you've heard of these folks, and you're like, this is government stuff, it doesn't apply to me. Well, this is kind of like the next step. And you could get political and talk about government overreach and all kinds of stuff, which we're not going to necessarily do. But do you remember when they started talking about how Venmo and PayPal, if you have transactions over $600, then that's going to generate a 1099, and it's going to be scrutinized. So this is part of that. Have your government help you, right? But I assume this does go through and try to figure out some sort of criminal activity. So there, I'm for that, right? Let's put the criminals in jail. So anyhow, this is the landing page, the BOI. If you've heard this thrown around, you do need to pay attention. So you can click over here on BOI information. It'll take you this. Prepare. I have 3 LLCs. I did one last night. I'm going to do the other 2 today. There's different rules. It doesn't take very long. Then you're really just putting in your name and you're saying, I'm the person running this LLC. So they have that on file. It's also on file with the state of Texas. Don't necessarily know what the holdup is there. Why would anyway? But anyhow, but it doesn't take long to file. But the penalty if you don't file is insane. It's there's a frequently asked questions in here. I won't find it in time, but maybe it's on here. Yeah, here's the frequently asked questions. There's a lot of them. Most of it doesn't apply, but until you get down here to the penalties. So is there a fee? No, there's not a fee. You just have to do it. What companies are required are a few exceptions. And then, the penalty, I'm not going to be able to find it because I'm looking for it in real time, but it's up to $591, oddly specific number, a day if you're late. So the rules are, and don't quote me on this, you look it up, but if you have an existing LLC going into 2024, then you have all year to do this. But if you stand up an LLC in 24, then you only have 90 days from the time you stand it up. So obviously, if you're standing up an LLC, you got a lot on your plate, probably, right? You're learning, Most people, doing it the first time for sure are learning all about how your particular state works and, all that kind of stuff. So now make sure you kind of knock this out right away. And then from 2025 going forward, you're going to have 30 days. So it's going to become part of you immediately register, right? So they kind of let everybody kind of warm into this. There are some exceptions. If you're a sole proprietor LLC, I believe that's one of them that is qualifies for ownership interest. You have to be a 25% owner. That's the minimum. So like with Ankerstar Wealth, I do have some shareholders, part owners, or if you're a decision maker. So Texas terminology is manager managed. So anybody that's a decision maker that's also an owner also has to qualify as this. So again, not going to find the big fee there, but yeah, $591 a day. It is new, so you can also send a letter in with your filing saying I was unaware. Most of the times I've dealt with the IRS, if you send a letter just owning what you did, then they simply say okay, and you're actually not fined for it. Been very, very fortunate of just waiving it. So I'd imagine if you own up that you've missed the mark on this, just simply don't try to hide it, right? They are here to help, at least for right now, and then we'll go from there. So, all right, that's all I have on that. Mike, any thoughts to close us out here?
Yeah, that just looks interesting and a lot of work to think about as you start an LLC. So.
Yeah, you bet. And the perfect as I bring this down is like, well, people, especially high earners, are always asking me, it's like, well, how to pay less in taxes? Well, opportunity zones, donor advised funds if you want to give money away, or get out of your W-2 job and do the same job as a 1099 working for yourself, which does entail you setting up an LLC. So if you're part of those that are trying to switch from the W-2 to the 1099 in the small business world, if you're doing the exact same job, except you get a ton of tax benefits with it, just remember there's a lot of these little things out there. So, all right, what did we learn today? Pay attention if you're opening an LLC. Palantir should have a lot of room to run. And then, of course, Friday morning, you should get all your new Apple iPhones and gear and go from there. And I do think it will ultimately, I think sales will be through the roof due to a lot of the new capabilities. I don't think it's the same, boring upgrade cycle. Like the 15 was not much of a, if you've seen the jokes, a guy with a mustache on said, releasing the new iPhone 16, and they take the mustache off and guy's got another mustache on, like you can't tell the difference between the phones. But I think this one is different. So with that, we will let you guys go, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.